Today we will be discussing about the drug Digitalis. Digitalis is one of the important heart medicine which we often use in our clinical practice for a variety of acute and chronic conditions of heart. Now this is the picture of the plant Digitalis purpura, and you can see that the leaves and flowers resembles human fingers. Hence the name Digitalis is derived from the word digitus because of the finger shaped corolla. And purpura is a Latin word derived from purpurcus, meaning purple colored appearance of the flowers. Hence the flowers are purplish in nature. Now the drug Digitalis is not unique for homeopathic pharmacopoeia alone, because it has been used from the very old days by the modern medicine for every patient who had a fast heart, or for anyone who had anything that mattered with the heart was given Digitalis. And it is because of this Ken says that it caused more death than any other drug. Nowadays also you can see that modern medicine use digitoxin for congestive cardiac failure, cardiogenic shock, etc., and it results in variety of cumulative effects. Now let us discuss about the homeopathic drug Digitalis in detail. The common name is foxglove, comes from the family Scrofulariaceae. Certain other drugs coming under this family are Euphrasia, Leptandra, Verbascum, etc. Now this Digitalis contains 5 or more active principles, and among them the most important ones are digitalin and digitoxin. And it is because of the alkaloid digitalin, the main pathogenesis of Digitalis depends upon the alkaloid digitalin that is present in it. Now the prover is our master Samuel Hahnemann, and Hahnemann describes the pathogenesis of Digitalis in our source books, both Materia Medica Pura and Chronic Disease. Now let us move on to the preparation of the drug Digitalis. The tincture is actually prepared from the fresh leaves of uncultivated plant in the second season. It is because of the reason that the plant matures only after 2 years, and it is at that time the leaves are collected and the tincture is prepared from the fresh leaves of the plant Digitalis purpura. Now Hahnemann says that Digitalis mainly suits to a scrofulous constitution, and also it is mainly adapted to elderly people than young children. So it is mainly adapted to scrofulous elderly constitution. Now let us move on to the sphere of action of Digitalis. As we all know, the main action of Digitalis is upon the muscles of heart. The muscles of heart, and through the action upon the vagus nerve, it affects the circulation. Then other sphere of action are liver, lungs, stomach. Then occiput is also another important sphere of action, and also genitourinary organs. So the main sphere of action is upon the muscles of heart. Now let us move on to the pathogenesis of Digitalis. As we have already told, the pathogenesis of Digitalis is mainly due to the alkaloid, that is digitalin. Now what the alkaloid digitalin does is that the digitalin increases the contractility of the chambers of heart. The digitalin increases the contractile power of the chambers of heart. It is both atria and ventricles. So if excess of digitalin is used, it can either result in permanent systole or permanent contraction of the both atria and ventricles. So if we are experimenting it on healthy provers, in a few doses you can get a decreased or slow pulse and heart rate, and also contraction of atrioles resulting in increased arterial tension. Whereas if it is given in increasing dosage, it can result in a toxic dose, thereby resulting in a state of no contraction or a no pulse state. So that is actually the toxic dose of Digitalis. But in our homeopathic medicine, we use the potentized remedy, hence there is no such dangerous effect. But it is said that you should use this drug with caution in sensitive people. So that is the pathogenesis of drug. That is, the digitalin increases the contractility of chambers of heart, And digitalis profoundly acts upon the muscular substance through pneumogastric and vasomotor nerves, producing great debility to tissues, which will eventually end in paralysis and thereby results in the increased arterial tension and a slow intermittent pulse. So this was one of the important symptoms that was obtained in the proving of digitalis, that was slow intermittent pulse. We'll be discussing about it in our lecture later. Now, it is said that it is not just a remedy that is given for defective valves, or which are the disease condition which is resulting from defective uh, valves of heart, but it is rather a stimulant and tonic to the muscular tissue of heart. So it mainly acts upon the, you should always remember, it mainly acts upon the muscles of heart rather than valves or damaged valves. So it is indicated in a variety of clinical conditions like angina, Bright's disease, dropsy, jaundice, various sorts of heart affections, and also has marked the action on enlarged prostate. Now these are the various causative factors which can result in the pathogenesis of digitalis. That is, one is sexual excess. Next, high living is another causative factor, and also alcohol. So these three are the main causative factor. Now let us look on the mental feature. You can see that only a few provers were there during the proving of the medicine digitalis. That was only 10 to 11 provers were there. And the digitalis is one of the important remedy which is having alternating action. That is, in its primary action, it slows down the pulse, whereas in its secondary action, it increases the pulse rate. And a homeopathic physician, Ringer, studied the pathogenesis on digitalis and found that it acts mainly upon people with a cardiac problem or who have poor cardiac function. So the main symptom that was obtained in proving was a fear of death associated with heart problems. So fear of death is one of the important mental feature of digitalis, and this is one of the feature that we finds throughout the remedy. Along with the cardiac complaints, there is a great fear of death. And the most important characteristic feature is that the fear of death is aggravated when walking or in motion. That means they fear that their heart would stop beating on walking, or while in motion, the heart will stop beating. So there is great fear of death, especially on walking or motion. Now you can also see that the digitalis personality is very reserved type of personality, who is low spirited, who is nervous and sad, having a poor self confidence, who avoids company, who escapes from a crowd, who doesn't likes to mingle into a crowd. And there is also a lachrymous sad mood for which he was unsuccessful. He had such some attempt in the he had certain attempts, he became unsuccessful, and that failure resulted in a lachrymous or sad mode from which he wants to run away from the reality because he or she doesn't want to face it again. Okay, so such a mental feature you can get in ignatia also, but it says that ignatia acts more superficially and the digitalis is more deep acting. Similar picture you can also see in Oramet, but Oramet is more deeper than digitalis. So ignatia comes superficially, then comes digitalis, and the terminal stage you can think of Oramet in such conditions. So you can see that it is a low-spirited personality who is having poor self-confidence, who doesn't want to mingle, who wants to escape from a crowd, who have a great fear of death, and also much anxiety is there. You can see that the anxiety is mainly about the future because he or she is suffering from cardiac trouble, so he or she fears what will happen tomorrow. That is, anxiety for the future is there, and also anxiety as if conscience troubled, means as if he or she has done something wrong. So such an anxiety as if conscience troubled is present in Digitalis. And this anxiety and sadness is present especially at night with much sleeplessness. So they suffer from this anxiety and sadness at night, and that can result in sleeplessness. And he or she feels that something bad is going to happen. So this is a mental picture of Digitalis. The most and foremost thing that you must remember in the mental picture is the fear of death, similar to aconite, ars, medorinum, etc. But Digitalis, the primary important symptom is that it is connected with the cardiac trouble. And this fear of death is mainly aggravated on walking or motion, because when they walk or when they are in motion, they feel that their heart would stop on walking. The exact opposite symptom you can see in Gelsenia, that is, unless on motion, he or she fears that the heart will stop beating. Next is the lachrymous, low spirited mood, for especially for something that was unsuccessful. He or she is a reserved personality with poor self-confidence. Much anxiety is seen, especially at night, causing various troubles of sleeplessness. Anxiety for future, feels that something bad is going to happen. So this is actually the mental picture of Digitalis, usually connected with the cardiac complaint. Now let us move on to the guiding symptoms. You should always remember these guiding symptoms when prescribing Digitalis. The first and foremost thing is extreme prostration or a faint like sensation with restlessness. So, this extreme prostration or faint like sensation starts from the stomach. It said that he faints on slightest provocation, and together with this, you can get a very slow pulse, sensation of faintness, and great weakness. It is said in Alan's keynote that the fingers go to sleep frequently and easily. These all indicate that extreme prostration or weakness in Digitalis. So this is one of the important symptoms. Then next is the prime important symptom is the extremely slow intermittent pulse. Extremely slow and intermittent pulse. So you can see that in almost all complaints, or you usually prescribe Digitalis in case when it is associated with the weak slow pulse is associated with the cardiac complaints. It is said that the slow pulse is mainly in the recumbent posture, but it becomes irregular and dicrotic on sitting up. Pulse is very slow and weak, intermitting every 3rd, 5th and 7th beat. So when you examine the pulse of the patient, you can see that there is a missing of beat and it intermits every 3rd, 5th or 7th beat. This weak pulse is associated with almost all cardiac complaints. Ken says that you should never prescribe Digitalis when the pulse is very fast, because the prime and sole indication of Digitalis is the weak, extremely weak, slow and intermittent pulse. Another important symptom is the goneness sensation associated with most complaints. We have already told that there is a faint sinking sensation or a goneness sensation which actually begins in the stomach. This is mainly associated with deathly nausea. So the patients says that there is a sinking sensation in the abdomen. He can't describe that sensation and he says that there is an awful sensation of weakness in the stomach and it seems as if he would die from that sensation. So it is that much he is troubling from that sensation. And the most important thing is that he doesn't get better from eating. So that empty sinking sensation which is present in the stomach is not ameliorated by eating, similar to sepia. Whereas in anacardium, iodine and all, you can see that they are temporarily relieved by eating. Next important symptom is loss of appetite with violent thirst. You should always remember there is violent thirst for water. And also even if there is loss of appetite, that is usually accompanied by deathly nausea. There is a deathly nausea on seeing or feeling, getting the smell of food, as in antitat, lobelia, ipecac, etc. The nausea is deathly nausea. Kent says that the nausea is a singular deathly nausea, and it is often accompanied by that deathly feeling of sinking away in the stomach. Now you can also see that due to the disturbance in the circulation of the body, the conditions of cyanosis results, so which can manifest as bluish paleness of lips, then the face becomes blue, fingers blue, the pulse would cease, often associated with cardiac troubles or cardiac spells, and during these troubles the patient wants to lie on the back. That is one of the important symptoms of digitalis, that is the patient wants to lie flat on the back. Now another important clinical condition in which digitalis can be thought of is dropsy of both internal and external parts. The main indication of digitalis in dropsy is dropsy with suppression of urine. Here you can compare digitalis with apocynum, which is another important remedy for dropsy. But the differentiating factor is that in apocynum you have got a surplus amount of urine from involuntary or relaxed sphincter, whereas in digitalis you have got suppression of urine, that is dropsy with suppression of urine. Both in apocynum and digitalis you can get thirst. So both apocynum and digitalis are thirsty remedies. Then in digitalis you can get a skin as having a bluish appearance in the dropsy, rather than an alabaster hue which is present in renal dropsy. The skin is having a bluish appearance. Now there is congestion and enlargement, especially in the region of liver. The liver is sore and tender to touch for the patient, but when we are examining, we get the liver is very hard to touch, and there is a congestion and engorgement of liver, whereas the patient says there is a soreness and tenderness in the region of liver. So this can also be associated with cardiac complaints. You should remember soreness and tenderness in the region of liver, which is usually associated with cardiac complaints. Now the patient also describes a peculiar sensation as if an electric shock which is coming throughout the body, and he describes it as a sudden or shock-like appearance which is coming to the abdomen or which is rising into the head. That is as if a current of electricity has passed, which is associated with an internal jerkings or twitches. Then there is also sudden flushes of heat, which is especially present during the climacteric. Now another important symptom is sleeps into aggravation like lacusis, grantilia, etc. Because the digitalis has one of the important symptoms which is associated with almost all cardiac complaints, that is dreams of falling from height. Dreams of falling from height or dreams of falling into water. These are the peculiarities of digitalis dreams. Other drugs which you can find these dreams of falling are Tuja. Tuja is yet another drug which is having these dreams of falling. And the sleep is disturbed due to the disturbances in heart. When he goes to sleep, he feels that there is a vague discomfort or a vague pain in the region of heart, and thus also he has a lot of mental anxiety, fear that is coming on during the sleep. He frequently startles up in sleep, and there is jerking at night, and breath seems to fade away, and he wakes up with a gasp. This is associated with a variety of conditions like pulmonary edema, congestive cardiac failure, etc., where the breath seems to fade away during sleep, and he wakes up with a gasping for breath. So the sleep is much disturbed in such patients. And also motion aggravates. We have already told that the slightest motion increases the anxiety and also palpitation from slightest motion. and there is a peculiar sensation as if heart would stop beating and she dared to move. Exact opposite of gelsemium. So you should always remember the two medicine. That is, in digitalis, she fears that her heart would stop beating if she move, whereas the exact opposite is seen in gelsemium. Now let us move on to the particulars of digitalis. So these were the important guiding symptoms of digitalis. Let us have a look on. There is extreme prostration or faint-like sensation with restlessness, which you should always remember. Then extremely slow and intermittent pulse, which is found to be associated with almost all cardiac complaints. Goneness sensation or a sinking sensation, especially in the stomach. Loss of appetite with violent thirst, associated with a deathly nausea. Conditions of cyanosis, indicated in dropsy of both internal and external parts. There is congestion and enlargement, especially in the region of liver. Sensation of an electric shock throughout the body. Sleeps into aggravation with a constant dream of falling from height. Also, aggravation from motion. Now let us move on to the particulars of digitalis. First and foremost is the head symptoms. You can see a constant vertigo which is arising from cardiac and hepatic affections. Constant vertigo which is resulting from cardiac or hepatic affections and commences in the occiput. When we discussed about the sphere of action, we told the important sphere of action was occiput. So this vertigo and headache commences in the occiput. This vertigo can also result from loss of conduction of electric impulses in congestive cardiac failure, sick sinus syndrome, etc. So in such conditions, digitalis is indicated. Then you can also see there is a ice cream headache or sharp shooting frontal pain extending into nose after drinking cold water or eating ice cream, resulting in ice cream headache. Then Boger says there is spastic hemicrania, that is pain in one half of the brain. Spastic hemicrania or crashes in the head, especially on dropping to sleep. So these are the important head symptoms. You should always remember that vertigo, which is resulting from cardiac or hepatic affections, and that commencement in the occiput. You can also remember that ice cream headache and spastic hemicrania, crashes in head, especially on drooping to sleep. Now the face, the appearance is cyanotic, which is often associated with cardiac complaint or due to the decreased circulation, resulting in a pale bluish appearance, especially the lips and tongue, showing peripheral cyanosis. Then the tongue, the peculiarity is thick flabby tongue with a violent thirst. Then the skin is cold with clammy sweat. So the cold clammy perspiration is present throughout the remedy. Then Boric says that there is a changes in the acuteness of perception of shades of green. Changes in acuteness of perception of shades of green, and object appears green and yellow. Object appears green and yellow. And it is said that digitalis is one of the important remedy for detachment of retina. Retinal detachment. Now let us move on to the gastrointestinal symptoms. We have already told there is a faint sinking sensation which is mainly present in the stomach, associated with a deathly nausea which is not ameliorated by eating. Then there is violent thirst, there is loss of appetite with a flabby tongue, thick flabby tongue. Then there is tenderness in the region of liver, sore and tender liver, and also there is white putty stools or white or pale appearance of the stool. And this white or pale appearance of stool is mainly resulting from hepatic disturbances, and as a result the stool turns white or ash colored or chalky appearance, and it is said that it resembles white putty like stools. So these are the important gastrointestinal symptoms. Dr. Nash reported a cure of a case of jaundice which was of worst type with the digitalis, and the sole indication was the too slow action of heart. Too slow action of heart along with the slow weak pulse, and he says the pulse was only giving about 30 beats per minute. So he cured such a case of jaundice with the digitalis. So digitalis is one of the important remedy for jaundice which is resulting either with heart disease or also which is resulting from hypertrophy or induration of liver along with the symptoms that we have described, that is the bitter taste of mouth, the appearance of tongue, great nausea. So such symptoms, if it is present with jaundice, you can think of digitalis along with bryony and colchicum. But on the mental side, you will notice a great despondency, anxiety and melancholia, and also the disturbed sleep you can see in digitalis. Now let us move on to the main sphere of action of digitalis, that is the action upon heart. We have already told that digitalis mainly acts upon the muscles of heart. So hence it is indicated in weak heart without valvular complications. So weak heart without valvular complications. Then the heart feels like stopping, and the main important or concomitant symptom, as we have already discussed, that is slow intermittent pulse, intermitting every third, fifth or seventh beat. Then the least movement causes violent palpitation, and you can also see that the palpitation arises from depression or grief. Then one of the important medicines for the hypertrophy of heart, as it acts upon the muscles, then with dilatation. So you can think of this medicine in left ventricular failure resulting from hypertrophy, then right ventricular failure resulting from hypertrophy. So in such conditions, when you can find this associated symptom, you can think of digitalis. Then one of the important medicine for cardiac dropsy, and also palpitation with depression from grief. It is also one of the important remedy for broken heart, which is resulting from disappointed love. So damaging the muscles of heart, especially in case of women, you can also think of digitalis. Then dreams of falling is very common with cardiac affections, and also due to the poor circulation, you can see that one hand is hot and the other hand is cold. One hand is hot and the other is cold. Lilienthal describes a peculiar modality of digitalis in angina pains, that is, angina pain is aggravated on raising the arms and it is ameliorated by holding the arms perfectly still. It is only described in Lilienthal, that is, angina pains are aggravated on raising the arms and it is ameliorated by holding perfectly still. So this is the action of digitalis and upon the heart. Now let us move on to the respiratory complaints of digitalis. You can see it is one of the important remedy for pneumonia of old people, and also difficult breathing along with cardiac trouble and liver complaints. When you can see, this is one of the important indication in pulmonary edema, which is resulting from cardiac complaints like congestive cardiac failure or left ventricular failure. When the muscles are weak, it can result in poor ejection fraction, resulting in poor pumping, can result in cardiogenic shock, result in pulmonary edema. In such conditions, when there is difficulty in breathing along with that cardiac troubles, when there is slow breathing, there is great weakness of chest, they have great difficulty to talk like Stanamet. Then there is a great dyspnea with a constant desire to breathe deeply. There is a constant desire for gasping or to breathe deeply because they feel as if the lung has been compressed or congested. And also you have that peculiar symptom, that is when he goes to sleep, the breath seems to fade away and he wakes up with a gasp. So in this peculiar symptom, you can also think of lachesis and also grindelia, who has a oppression or a loss of suffers from a loss of breath on falling asleep. So the breathing is deep, slow and sighing, at times approaching orthopnea. Orthopnea means There is great difficulty to breathe while in, or difficulty to breathe while in lying position, and this is associated with the short dry tickling cough. Short dry tickling cough. Now, as we have already told, the digitalis is one of the important medicine for pneumonia of old people. Pneumonia of old people with prune juice expectoration. Prune juice expectoration. This is the prune, that is a fruit, and you can see this expectoration of pneumonia resembles prune juice expectoration, and in repertory, digitalis is one of the important remedy where you can get prune juice expectoration. And also the dyspnea during the pneumonia is aggravated by Lee's movement, which is the general aggravating factor of digitalis. Now let us look at the peculiar features of cough. Cough is especially present at midnight with expectoration of boiled starch or expectoration of bloody mucus in hypostatic congestion of lungs. Cough is brought on by talking, walking, drinking anything cold, bending the body, and it's associated with pain in shoulders and arms. Respiratory complaints are associated with pain in shoulders and arms. It is said that digitalis is a useful medicine when there is filling up of lower part of lungs. So this results in much difficulty in breathing, and he has to sit up, and all these result from congestive pathology, not ischemic pathology, more of a congestive pathology. Then you should always differentiate between cardiac cough and pulmonary cough. Both will be having expectoration, but more pinkish white frothy expectoration you will get in pulmonary cough with edema present, and also more wheezing will be there in case of pulmonary cough, and cardiac there will be more rattling and crepitations. Now let us move on to the genitourinary action of digitalis. Digitalis is one of the important medicine for dropsy. You will get throbbing in the neck of bladder, early morning erection, one of the important remedy for swelled prostate. Swelled prostate. It is one of the lovely remedy for prostatic induration, resulting in retention of urine, dribbling of urine, and you can see there is fruitless urging to urinate, especially at night. There is fruitless urging to urinate, especially at night, throughout the sleep, and sleep is disturbed, and all this condition which is resulting from an inflamed or indurated prostate, digitalis seems to have much effect. Then in gonorrhea, you can see that there is thickened prepuce. Thickened prepuce, the glands are inflamed. And thickened prepuce, yet another remedy is sulfur. And also there is profuse thick yellowish white leukorrhea. Then you can see that there is a weakness of genitals or sexual organs after coition. Then Boric describes that there is a sharp cutting or throbbing pain at the neck of bladder, as if a straw was being thrust back and forth. As if a straw was being thrust back and forth. That is a peculiar sensation which is described in the bladder. And it is said that catheter was used for months or years in patients who are old bachelors who find a great difficulty to pass the urine, and there is a great amount of residual urine is there. Digitalis acts as a good remedy in such condition, and also it diminishes the size of prostate gland and has many times cured. So you should also think of digitalis, the action of digitalis on prostate gland. Now extremities, you can see that there is a peculiar feeling or peculiar symptom, that is numbness of thighs on sitting for long time. Numbness of thighs on sitting for long time, like writing exam or watching a movie, you'll get that numbness. This all result from poor circulation, and also one foot hot and the other cold. We have already told one arm or one upper extremities also, you can see that this one arm is hot and the other cold. Then position in sleep, we have already told, with all these disturbances, the patient wants to sleep with head low. Patient prefers to lie with head low. So that is all in short about the particulars of digitalis. You should remember the action of digitalis: head symptom, face, GIT, heart, this is one of the most important sphere of action, respiratory, genitourinary, and extremities. So the sleep position. Now let us see the drug totality in short. So digitalis, the D for debility, feels as if dying with extreme prostration. So the debility, the dying, extreme prostration, and deathly nausea, you should remember. Then I for irregular intermittent pulse, intermitting every third, fifth and seventh beat. And G for that goneness sensation in stomach or faint sinking. Then if he moves, the heart would stop, that peculiar feeling. Then talking fatigue with great weakness of chest. Then weakness of genitals after intercourse or coition. Lids, blueness, blue with distended veins, both internal and external dropsy. And the stool is light ash or chalky white. This is in short about the drug totality. So these are the characteristic features of digitalis. You should always keep in mind the characteristic pulse, then the extreme prostration, deathly nausea, motion aggravation, sleep aggravation, the dreams, and also the indications of digitalis clinically. So now let us move on to the modalities. Certain aggravating factors are raising up, because he faints up on raising up. Exertion, heat is an aggravating factor. Then lying on left side. Then motion aggravation. Smell of food causes deathly nausea. Cold drinks, and also sexual excess is an aggravating or causative factor. Now generally digitalis is better by rest, lying flat on back, and also cool air. So these are the modalities of digitalis. Now relations. China antidotes the direct action of digitalis and increases the anxiety. And the antidotes for digitalis are camphor and serpentarian. So that's all in short about digitalis.